We've had 4 in opposition. We got 1 more, so, you know, y'all choose. Okay, come forward, sir.
Mr. Chairman, Eldon James, on behalf of the Virginia Chapter of the American Planning Association, first I want to thank everybody involved in the efforts over the course of the past year, but then certainly within the last few weeks to try to find something that was more workable than where we were previously. I'm going to make this very short. I'm going to echo the comments from the county attorney from York. The permit is a tool that is, when appropriately used, which it always should be. I can't speak for every jurisdiction in the Commonwealth. It's used to balance competing uses and to attempt to find a way that you can get those competing and sometimes conflicting uses to work together. It is a tool that exists for that purpose. That's why it was created by the Assembly and why it is used by local government. And with this substitute that's now before the committee, I will now have to run that by our legislative committee and may have some more suggestions for the chairman, but thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. All right, any questions of Eldon? Okay. All right, any questions of that popped that we need to talk to anyone else? Committee? All right, we'll wrap up.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, if may. So the members fully understand with the discussion that's been had here this evening, what this measure does. I draw your attention, first of all, in all the years I've been down here, there haven't been too many times when we've seen a circumstance where the stakeholders representing the full width and breadth of the ag community, from the largest to the smallest operations, have come together in harmony on a bill. And I must confess that's probably in large part because I was not a part of the work group. I would have just probably messed up things. But as we so frequently see, we tend to be dividing within an industry. But in this measure, the industry of agriculture across its broad spectrum is united in what we want to try and achieve. This bill has come before you because, unfortunately, and I'm going to name at least one name in a positive scene, or positive vein, because unfortunately not every county in the Commonwealth has treated agriculture as Rockingham County has. And Rockingham County has developed a wonderful relationship, recognizing the critical input of the ag community to all the factions. And I've actually received some emails from folks in Rockingham asking us not to go forward with this bill because they're afraid we're going to mess things up for them, quite candidly. And that's definitely not my intent. But it's brought about because some counties have been very restrictive in what they've allowed, or what they would or would not allow. Some counties, through the use of special use permits as it relates to events, have de facto said you're not going to have it. Mr. Pearson quoted me correctly when he approached the issue of permits and we were chatting on the phone as I was away from here. I said that's a deal breaker. That guts the bill. If we give local government unfettered right to still issue any and every permit for whatever activity. In the measure before you, we are restricting the ability of local government under the toolbox they currently have. But they still have the tools of zoning, the tools of comprehensive plan, and if they can demonstrate in their locality what they feel is a substantial impact, they can impose ordinances to address the issues that some of the opponents have raised this evening. I think it's important, Mr. Chairman, members of the subcommittee, to make note on line 12, 3.2300 defines a farm operation, so it's not just idle land, it's got to be a farm. Drawing your attention then further down, notice the language on lines 19 and 20 that very purposefully draws in those farm activities that we have allowed with last year's modification of the infamous pickle bill are things that local government can't touch, but by narrowing it to just 3, 4, and 5, we have made clear you can't call it a farm and start a restaurant. You can't call it a farm and open a 7-Eleven because those come under other parts of state laws and regulations. So we've tried to make that accommodation very much for local government because that was never the intent of the proponents. The proponents simply want to be able to direct market. They simply want to be able to have events on their property on an infrequent basis. and potentially charge admission for said events, bottom line, to supplement the rest of the on-farm activities that are ongoing. Unfortunately, we're at a place, Mr. Chairman, members of the subcommittee, where folks move into neighborhoods, the farm was there when they moved in, and you know what, they loved that farm neighbor till they got there. And then realized that farmers don't always sleep till 7 o'clock in the morning when they like to get up. And farm activities sometimes generate noise, smells, and other things, flies, that they're not as fond of as when they just drove by it. And we've gotten to a situation where, unfortunately, and I understand the pressures on local government supervisors because numbers speak, but where they have to listen to the interests of the non-ag neighbors more so than the previously existing agricultural operation. And the purpose of this is to make sure that prospectively, local governments can still have some tools in the toolbox, but can't, because of the local politics of numbers, block legitimate agriculture operations and the farmer using the properties for validified agricultural uses. I hope it's the pleasure of the subcommittee to pass the bill. We recommend its passage.
Doug Sickles, you have a question?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, the no locality shall require a permit goes on to say that you can require a permit if you have a substantial impact on health, safety, or general welfare of the public.
Correct.
So Mr. Pearson said that it would take away the permitting authority, but if the localities were to find a substantial impact, the permit requirement goes back on.
And I think, and Ms. Pearson can correct me, I think the difference is, right now, they can determine what permits are necessary through just administrative process. In order to implement permits under this section, it would have to be by local ordinance. That they would have to go through a process determining there's a substantial impact. Also, because you're qualifying it, in fairness to those folks, it does make it subject to potential legal challenge. Where that if I'm aggrieved by the process and I don't feel it's a substantial impact, I could get my lawyers and come challenge the county on that determination. I'm a school teacher, I try and tell you both sides.
Any further?
My point was simply that if you have a series of events,
Sorry.
that may be over.
All right, any further questions of committee? We move on motions,
Comment on a motion, Mr. Chairman.
please.
Recently had a meeting with a subdivision group living not too far from me, and a certain number of people were really asking me to do something about the tractors on the road. And finally, one gentleman hit the speaker and said,
He's got a tractor.
So I think that was Orrick's remarks about the conflicts when you move in are quite true, and Mr. Chairman, I would move we report the bill.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
To report,
Mr. Chairman, speak to the bill.
please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I really think this is a work in progress, and it may be exactly what we need, but I'm just gonna be careful and vote no today, and appreciate all the hard work everyone's put into this.
Okay. Yeah, you got both sides of the fence on that one there.
I'm working on that,
Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, one final thing before we take action. I will also say, one, this is a bicameral process, that this may very well not be the finished product. It's the chairman's discretion, but I presume it'll be heard in full ag committee Wednesday. I will say here publicly, if there are minor changes that will not open up the whole issue, technical amendments, Marty may have some wordsmithing to do on some of the language. We may have some minor amendments at full committee on Wednesday. But to any and everybody here, I welcome your input. I have an open door policy. I'm office. I apologize to folks who are trying to catch me today. Because of a family emergency, I was not able to be here until just when I rolled in. But I'm open to working with folks to achieve the objective of the proponents, which are my objectives as well.
So, anyone on committee will speak in favor? Okay. All right, we have a motion to pass House Bill 268, to report 268, and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
one time.
All right, raise your hand. Noes?
Okay,
Okay.
got it.
All right. So I'd like to also thank the folks who worked on the working group this year. Would you please stand?
Thank you.
You know, the process worked. Last year this time, we didn't know that we would split this baby in half, but evidently the baby came back, and it's okay. So thank all of you for your hard work and for moving forward. All right, looks like now we are done. Marty, do we? Yeah, McClellan is out, so the bill will just go by. We'll see it next week. Okay.
I
All right,
assume you're
anything
talking about
else?
Fauquier County?
We'll all rise.
That's Crawford County, is that right?